focusing on the draft Unified State Plan. It has been posted for public comment. Today we'll have Christy Jones with Kerber Eckenbreckel presenting the majority of the information, as well as give an opportunity for each of our core partners to comment as to their involvement on the plan development. As always, please mute your phones so that we do not get any of the background noise. Although today, unlike all of our other webinars where we allow for open comments and questions, this is a presentation only of information. We will not be able to take questions today. If you have any comments or questions, there's a public forum to present those at, and you should utilize that method for those comments. If there are no, so we'll go ahead and turn it over to Christy Jones, who will present on the Unified State Plan. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Christy Jones with KEB. Before we get started, I thought I'd provide an outline of what we'll cover today. We're going to talk about the Unified State Plan requirements under WIOA, the groundwork that was laid before plan development. As Mark said, the public comment process. We're going to invite each of the core partner representatives to talk briefly about their involvement in drafting the plan. And then I'll go through chapter by chapter so you can gain an understanding of the plan in its entirety. WIOA requires the governor of each state to submit a plan every 4 years that serves as a strategy for the workforce development system. And that plan must include Title 1B, Title 2, Title 3, and Title 4. There are two options. States can choose either the combined approach or the Unified State Plan approach, and Illinois has submitted or will be submitting the Unified State Plan approach. This plan will be effective for years 2016 through 2019. Keep in mind that this plan is a living document that will change and evolve. The plan was drafted based on the known requirements of WIOA as well as the proposed federal regulations. And since the rules are not finalized, it is anticipated that several elements of the plan will be updated with additional detail as soon as the requirements are known. Once the plan is submitted, amendments can be made in that 4-year time period. Department of Labor and Department of Ed required that the initial WIOA plan be submitted by April 1st, 2016, so we are in good shape at the state of Illinois. We have a representative from each of the core partners on the call today, and all of those core partners sit on the State Interagency Working Group, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. They were heavily involved and instrumental in plan development. If you're not familiar with the Interagency Work Group, it was initially brought together to identify and address the state-level issues associated with the implementation of WIOA. The intended outcomes are state-level policies that provide consistent direction to regional and local level partners as they establish effective one-stop delivery systems. In regard to the plan development, some of the groups that were involved are the Governor's Leadership Team, the IWIB, the Interagency Work Group, as I just mentioned, the Local Task Advisory Groups, also known as TAGs, the Local Workforce Innovation Areas, and the regional planning teams. Many of you have heard this in other areas or in other webinars, but you'll hear a lot today about vision, guiding principles, and strategies. They really are the groundwork or the base to the Unified State Plan. They'll be referenced several times, specifically on the strategic side of the plan. In regard to an overview of the work that took place before the drafting, before any pen went to paper, in the summer of 2015, Governor Rauner asked the National Governors Association to facilitate a policy academy among his key staff, business leaders, state administrators, agency directors, and local partners to develop the vision and guiding principles for WIOA state and regional planning. And from that policy academy came the Education, Workforce, and Economic Development Leadership Team. So the next 3 slides have the vision, guiding principles, and strategies. And if you want to make a note, the vision is referenced on page 27 of the plan. The guiding principles are also on page 27. And the strategies are explained on page 28 through 31. There's a graphic of the WIOA planning framework if you want to look at that for reference. In regard to the public comment process, the plan was officially released for public comment on January 25th, 2016, and it is a 30-day public comment period. Currently, the IWIB is requesting public comment on the plan. Those comments are due by 5 p.m. on February 24th. And on this slide is the address where you can actually go and just type in your formal comments. Now I'd like to introduce each of the core partners to just give a brief overview of how they were involved in plan development. I'm going to start with Mike Baker from the Illinois Department of Commerce.
Thank you, Christy. Good morning, everyone. Well, our role was obviously representing Title I-B, working with the other partners collaboratively to come up with, following the governor's vision, come up with an implementation strategy for how all of these different programs can work together to improve service delivery both to businesses and to job seekers across the state and students, so that we have a more robust workforce across the state that has the right skills that employers need to remain competitive in the economy. Just overall, we were very pleased that the Act contained many of the things that we had already begun doing here in Illinois, in some cases for many years, things like work-based learning, sector strategies, business engagement. So we were very, very happy that the direction that the new Act took was right in line with the things that we'd been doing anyway. So it was not a big step for us anyway to try to incorporate those things into everyday planning. This was a new process for everyone, and just want to say that we're very happy with the collaborative process across the core partners and with the local areas that have been involved in this, IWP, and all the regular players that are usually at the table, and some new players that we've not worked with very closely before that have been very instrumental in the process of making this truly a unified state plan. And with that, we look forward to receiving your comments over the next few days, and we'll get this baby put together and sent off to DOL. Thank you all.
Thanks, Mike. Representing Title II, we have Jamil Steele on the line from the Illinois Community College Board.
Well, good morning. Excuse me, got this cold. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jamil Steele, the Senior Director of Adult Education with the Illinois Community College Board, commonly known as ICCB. ICCB has been involved in the WIOA process for quite some time, from the time of the signing of the law on July 22nd, 2014. ICCB has been actively involved as part of the Interagency work group, the core partner group, participated in the TAG assistance groups, the performance group, the infrastructure group, and many other groups. As Title II of WIOA, it is important that adult education is well represented, and we feel that it's important to make sure that we are engaged with all our partners to provide integrated services to many individuals that are served through adult education. This will provide the adult education provider community with the opportunity to engage with partners in developing strong literacy and career pathways that will link our students to additional education, training, and linkages that lead to employment in high-wage and high-demand occupations. This is an opportunity for adult education to coordinate our services with our partners to jointly focus our efforts on providing adult learners with the essential elements needed for their success. A couple areas we would like to encourage adult educators as well as other stakeholders to focus on is, one is the target populations. ICCB would like for each stakeholder to look at the target populations we're serving and look at things in the unified plan that may need clarification or some information added in order to make it clearer, but to keep in tune with the spirit of WIOA. In addition, on page 20 of the document, it speaks to target populations and places emphasis on low literacy, low skilled, and English language learners. This is important for adult education as others to know that this population is a part of the whole entire WIOA process and not a standalone. These students must not only be able to access educational services, but also career pathway education, training, and employment services as well. Lastly, Chapter 4 provides a great description of the vision and the principles of the Unified State Plan. As a group, we should look at this section to ensure that we all have an understanding of the direction of Illinois under WIOA. This section focuses on the alignment and the coordination of demand-driven jobs and career pathways for today and for the future. All principles do not just apply to adult education alone, but it is very much dependent upon agency alignment of services of the co-partners as well. And, we wanted to collaborate and provide integrated services that will help prepare not only our students, but all customers and individuals for education, training, and work in Illinois. So we want to encourage each and every stakeholder to follow the procedures, submit their comments, because your voice at this critical time and recommendations is important. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamil. Yeah, I'm really glad you pointed out target populations, touched on alignment, and especially career pathways. Those are three things we're going to mention a little bit later today when we go in the chapter-by-chapter analysis. Representing Title III, we have Antoinette Golden from the Department of Employment Security.
Thank you, Christy. As mentioned, we are the Department of Employment Security. We're one of the 4 core partners of the WIOA, and we're responsible for administering the Wagner-Pizer Title III program. Pretty much the intent of the Wagner-Pizer program is to sustain economic growth by meeting the needs of job seekers and to increase awareness of resource providers as well as expand employment opportunities. We've been at the table for every detailed step of the process, and on page 46 and 47 of the Unified Plan, it highlights the program that we provide in our agency, which include like our business services division, our reemployment service program for those who are targeted as maybe having a difficult time finding employment, our services for people with disabilities, our reentry employment service program for adults and juveniles who have been subject to any stage of the criminal process, our youth program for ages 16 to 24, our migrant seasonal farm worker program, and so on. We also have our labor market information division, pretty much which provides the employment service information, the labor market information for the state. We are really excited to be a part of this team. We've been working with other partners for years, actually, and we're excited that we actually get an opportunity to clarify some of the information and to work side by side and answer any questions that people have for us. So we look forward to people submitting their questions, their comments, and we're here to answer whatever you guys have.
Thank you, Antoinette. From Title IV, we have Doug Morton, and special thanks to Doug Morton for making sure that the plan is accessible to everyone.
Okay, good morning, everyone. The Vocational Rehabilitation Program is a long-standing federal-state partnership, the primary purpose of which is to assist individuals with significant disabilities in becoming employed. We've had, obviously, an ongoing focus on serving people with disabilities under WIOA. We have a new focus on making sure that we have the employer-driven, job-driven sort of side of things addressed more directly than we have in the past. And so that's become a new focus for us, and it's been very helpful to be in partnership with the other folks here to learn a lot more about how they engage in those kind of activities. We've participated on the interagency team at numerous meetings and at various levels throughout the last year or so. We participated in the Policy Academy, which was very helpful in getting that sort of strategic thinking kind of moved forward to a new level, as well as other state level activities. We've participated in the regional planning process, which has been very helpful. It's been a great way to engage our field level staff. We have 22 field office supervisors throughout the state that serve on their local workforce boards and have been actively participating in the regional planning process as part of this overall WIOA planning. We've worked with, obviously, the other partners in the planning effort for the Unified Plan. I'd like to also point out that we have, through the Department of Education, a requirement to have still a rather significant component of planning that's included on the download link as part of the appendices. It's Appendix 4, which contains a lot of specific goals for the VR program, which are distinct from, but certainly in harmony, I guess is a good way to say it, with the goals and strategies in the Unified Plan. So if, in addition to whatever comments anyone would care to make about the Unified Plan in general, we are interested in receiving comments about our Appendix 4 on the VR program.
Thank you, Doug. We're going to switch gears a little bit and actually kind of dive into the state plan and give an overview of each chapter. The plan is divided into strategic and operational elements, and that's required by law and federal regulation. And chapters 2 through 5 summarize the data analysis and really serve as the strategic elements of the plan. So chapter 2 is economic and workforce analysis. It sets the stage for the entire plan by providing Illinois-specific data. So chapter 2 is really the data-heavy, lots of charts, tables, and graphs that paint the picture of Illinois in comparison to the nation, and Illinois in comparison to the Midwest and the Great Lakes region. As someone mentioned previously that they've been a part of, the state established an interagency data team with representatives from all of the core partners, and that was used to establish the framework for the data that's used in this chapter. Kind of as we go through the chapter, I will try to give page numbers so if that helps as a reference. The economic and workforce analysis presented in Chapter 2 highlight data that is publicly available and analysis that is replicable. And as stated in the plan, regional and local partners are encouraged to regularly analyze and validate complementary data through various forms of business engagement with the long-term goal to develop the most robust data collection possible so that supply and demand projections benefit from as near to real-time information as possible. So economic analysis starts on page 3. Emerging demand industry sectors and occupations. Some of you are familiar with this because you've seen this in your local and regional level. It's broken down by leading, emerging, and maturing industries. Leading industries are expected to grow during the projection period. Emerging industries are not strongly represented in the current economy. And maturing are important within the state, but not expected to grow during the projection period. Employers' employment needs. Statewide employment projections from 2012 to 2022 were used for occupational pathways within the 9 STEM clusters in Illinois pathways. These are actually in the plan, but I thought it'd be important to read them today. Those areas are agriculture, food, and natural resources, architecture and construction, energy, finance, health science, information technology, manufacturing, research and development, and transportation, distribution, and logistics. Workforce analysis starts on page 10, goes through labor force size and demographics, employment and unemployment, labor market trends, education and skill level of the workforce. And there's narrative in the chapter, but I think the best way to go about explaining those is really looking at the charts and tables that paint the picture. On page 18 is the skill gap analysis within the major industry sectors in Illinois. And I thought I'd give a quick example that I think is very representative. Manufacturing is discussed, and there's a survey or a study that is cited in the plan where 28,000 unemployed individuals in the Chicago region are seeking work in the manufacturing industry. But at the same time, the manufacturing companies were claiming that they could not find skilled workers. So where is that gap, and how can skills be attained to adequately fill these openings? Target populations, which was something that Jamil went into earlier, starts on page 20, and that ties in very nicely to the webinar that Dave Gallagher gave a couple weeks ago. Target populations, growth in higher skill occupations will require more targeted initiatives with populations requiring assistance to attain the necessary credentials to pursue opportunities in demand occupations. And I can go through those targeted populations include long-term unemployed, low-income adults, individuals with disability, those receiving public assistance, out-of-school youth, veterans, migrant and seasonal farm workers, re-entry individuals, ex-offenders, English as a second language and those facing substantial cultural barriers, older individuals, homeless, single parents, youth in the foster system or who have aged out, displaced homemakers, veterans with disabilities, low literacy adults, and low skilled adults. Switching to Chapter 3, which focuses on the Illinois workforce system, the chapter includes a brief summary of the workforce system and the capacity of state agencies and boards that are responsible for the administration of the workforce and education programs. Chapter 3 is really on the strategic side. Chapter 8 takes this a step further on the operational side. So there's a brief overview of the state agency partners that are included in the plan. State workforce activities are outlined on page 25, as well as the strengths and challenges of the workforce system identified by the core partners. That list really starts on page 25, but there's a much more in-depth analysis in Chapter 8. In regard to state workforce activities, there is a transformation that has been taking place for some time around these activities, and this will only accelerate as WIOA is fully implemented across partner programs at the local, state, and regional levels, aligning efforts to demand industries, occupations, and skills. There is a diagram of the Illinois workforce system, so if you need for reference to look at the WIOA title and what state agency that falls under. Also included is the Senior Community Service Employment Program, which falls under the Illinois Department of Aging, and the Second Chance Act of 2007 program that falls under the Illinois Department of Corrections. Chapter 4 is the state vision, principles, goals, and strategies that we went over at the beginning of this presentation and really serves as the base for the entire plan. Chapter 5 is the state board function, starts on page 32. This chapter gives an overview of the IWIB, and someone who has absolutely no familiarity with Illinois or the IWIB could really go to this chapter and gain an understanding of the makeup of the board, the activities, involvement of the board, when they meet. The IWIB is integrated through the entire plan, so you really can't go to a chapter and not see how they are tied in with the entire state and the entire unified state plan. Chapter 6 is where we kind of draw the line between strategic and jump over to operational. Chapter 6 is performance, goals, assessment, and evaluation. The performance side starts on page 33. the assessment and evaluation side starts on page 34. And prior to pen and paper ever being put to the Unified State Plan, the Interagency Work Group established a performance accountability subgroup consisting of representatives from the core partners, really looking at what data is captured now and what data gaps exist. And based on an analysis of historical and current participant outcomes, each core partner will negotiate baseline WIOA performance measures for each indicator as applicable. On page 34, in terms of assessment and evaluation, benchmarking is discussed as the selected method. And for reference, there is a link to the 2014 Benchmarking Workforce Development in Illinois plan that I think is very helpful, something really important to look at if you haven't had a chance to review it. Chapter 7 is the implementation of the state strategies. So taking the state strategies a step further, it's really the activities to carry out each strategy. So how core partners will align, integrate, and fund activities to carry out the strategies, and will align these activities with other required partners to assure coordination and non-duplication of effort, including coordination with economic development. Chapter 8 is the core program administration. This is where each of the state agency partners is really discussed to give someone an overview of what that state agency does day in and day out, how it relates to WIOA, and then their programs that tie into WIOA. The core partners were very heavily involved in the development of Chapter 8, and they spent a lot of time identifying their strengths, their challenges, and their opportunities for future alignment. We also looked at alignment with required partners. Chapter 9 is the operating systems and policies. It goes a little bit farther with the information that's discussed in Chapter 7 in terms of the assessment of programs, regarding core programs and other one-stop programs, alignment and integration of data systems, distribution of funds is discussed for each core partner, veterans priority of service. If you go to page 61, there's a really nice table that shows the veterans in Illinois, their unemployment versus unemployment, and thank you to the Department of Employment Security who provided us with that information, but also gave a very nice overview of how veteran services are handled at the comprehensive one-stop centers. And then physical and programmatic accessibility. Under WIOA, there is the direct linkage requirement, so that is discussed. Interpreters and their availability at the one-stop centers, one-stop certification, and staff training. And on page 59, privacy safeguards are discussed. This is something that probably will expand either in this plan or down the road, as there is a definite need for protecting personally identifiable information. Chapter 10 outlines the required assurances that are in the regulations. And one that I really wanted to point out today is local and stakeholder review and comment. This is actually built in as a part of the state plan. The state of Illinois is seeking input into the development of the unified plan from local board members, chief elected officials, business representatives, labor organizations, institutions of higher education, the entities responsible for planning or administrating the core programs, primary stakeholders, including other organizations that provide services to individuals with barriers to employment, and the general public. So in a few slides, when we give the link to the plan in public comment, we encourage you to share that with anyone that you think this is relevant to and may be interested in providing feedback. There are other documents that will be submitted as part of the plan in its entirety, program-specific requirements. So there's actually program-specific content for Title 1B, Title 2, Title 3, and Title 4. And then we also have several attachments. So every time you go through the plan and you see a reference to an attachment, you are able to go and view that, whether it be a table or a map or a study. On this slide is the link to actually download the Unified State Plan and all the attachments that go along with it. Comments and questions are due, as a reminder, by February 24th at 5 p.m. To the link above. With that, I really thank everyone for getting on the call today. We encourage you to spend some time with the plan, become acquainted with it, and if you have questions or comments, please send those to the link on the slide above.
Christy, thank you very much for the information today, and thank all of our partners for joining us and giving us a little bit of the input they had in building the Unified State Plan, and please provide those comments by the due date as required. Next week we will not have a webinar, nor will we have one the following week. Next week we want to be preparing for the week of the 22nd, where the regional summit will be occurring here in Springfield, as well as other meetings and finalization of information. And then we will be, many of the individuals that participate in these webinars will be involved in that regional summit to occur the 23rd or 22nd and 23rd of February. So we will take a 2-week break from the WIOA Wednesday webinars. We will keep you informed as to what we will have as a subject going into March on those. But keep your email open for identification of those meetings from Christy, and we'll let you know as we get any new information on them. Thank you again for your participation.